Hello and welcome to today's embodied cooking class. We are going to be making a leek and squash risotto finished with some goat cheese and honey, and I'm looking forward to making it with you. But before we begin, let's get started with our deep breaths, and we're going to keep going with this Veloma breath, the one where we break our lung into the top, the middle, and the bottom, and we breathe in deeply, we pause, we breathe in deeply, we pause, and we breathe into the final part of our lung, and we pause, and then we breathe all the way out, and then we switch sides. This is the ultimate breath for kind of interrupting the patterns of the way we breathe. You know how when we breathe, we're going, holding our breath, we're breathing really shallowly, sort of the funny little things that we do just as we're going through our day. This interrupts that and kind of gets us back into what is ultimately a more sort of natural rhythm of just breathing in and breathing out smoothly, which is what we always want and makes us feel safe and at home and comfortable and able to move forward. So we're going to do that one. The Veloma. Breathe in. First third, pause. The middle, pause, and all the way to the top. So full, pause, and release. And we'll breathe in again, the bottom, pause, the middle, pause, and the top. And release. And one more. Breathe into the bottom. And allow this to be so as deeply as you can breathe. Pause, middle, pause, all the way to the top, and release. Now we're going to switch, take a deep breath all the way in. Pause and release the top. Pause. The middle. Pause. And the bottom. Push it all the way out. Nothing left. Now breathe in again. Breathe out the first bit of the lung. Pause. The middle. And the final. Okay, last one. Breathe all the way in. Release. Pause. Release. Pause. Release. And now just notice how you feel. Okay, let's set our intention for today's meal creation. I'm just going to let you say it just to yourself. I'm going to say mine privately as well today. Okay, so let's start. We have leek and squash risotto today. And I have these seriously huge leeks. I might really realistically only need one of these. I'm going to see when I've cut it all up how big it is. But it doesn't look too, often leeks are so full of dirt. I'm just taking the really sort of hard tops off. These bits are not, these don't really get cooked. They're like really stringy at the end, so that's why we get rid of those. I do like some of the greens, but I try to get rid of the really rough outside bits that don't cook all the way through. And you see there's always so much dirt. So we're going to kind of get rid of these bits. And then I'm going to split it down the middle. And just give it a little wash, a little rinse. Get some of these, just the really obvious dirt off of there. Leeks are grown in this really beautiful way that the soil sort of compacts down into the top, which is why they're always sort of just that much dirtier than other things. And we're going to just slice them beautifully into half moons. Lovely, satisfying sound. With the knife smoothly moving through all these layers of onion. Leek is a type of onion. I'm sure most of you know that, of course, but. And with that said, you absolutely could substitute just a regular onion. Any kind of onion will do. But leeks are so special and beautiful when you can get them. They have this lovely grassy flavor and are a little sort of lighter. That's really a lot of leek. I think I'm just going to go with one of these gorgeous things because we want to have sort of equal amounts of leek and these will cook down, of course, but still. I think if I doubled this pile, it will just dwarf our little delicata here. And this is delicata squash. I'm so lucky to get this. And so this is what this recipe calls for. But if you can't find a delicata, you can use any kind of winter squash. Totally fine. I just love this one because you don't actually have to peel it. So it's so lovely. I can chop it up. You know, I'll cut it, remove the seeds, chop it up, put it in the risotto, and I won't have to peel it, which is amazing. Ooh, okay. There we go. Oof, having a hard time finding a proper, there we go, spot for it to go through. There we go. Split. Now we're going to remove the seeds and the placenta part. Remembering those deep breaths that felt so good, so soothing. I'm trying to continue them right now as I'm doing things. Always more challenging, right? So incredible how we're able always to be conscious of our breath, and yet, of course, we're also automatically doing it. The only system in the body that's like that. Usually it's either something we have control over and we choose to do it, or the body does it for us. The breath is the only exception to that. Okay. Off we go to the little compost bin with these squishy seeds. And for sure you can keep these and roast them if you are so inclined. That would be wonderful. I do not currently have it in me. And so now here we go. Ooh, little seeds hanging on there. I'm just going to cut it into some small pieces. Oh my goodness, still so many seeds. Cut it in half again. And then I think one more time. Yes. They are, squashes are these challenging shapes. It's kind of the fun of fruits and vegetables is sometimes you have these shapes and you're like, how exactly am I going to cut this? It's like this art of experience mixed with, I think, instinct. And also, of course, always the acceptance that, well, if you tried cutting it a way that really did not work out very well, that's okay. You can do it differently next time. You got to learn something. And I'm just wanting these to be sort of a nice size that will cook in about the 25, 30 minutes we're going to be cooking our risotto for. Oh, right. Get rid of this hard end bit. We've got the very ends of the squash, which also are inedible, those little bits where the root is attached. And as you can see, I'm naturally sort of angling my knife in, and then I'm using the weight of my wrist to press down into that area where I just need more. This is just something, I don't know if anyone ever taught me this. It's just something you learn over time as you work with different things. It just makes sense. 2. And 3. Great. Slice, slice. There's a really gentle aroma coming off of these vegetables. It's not very powerful. It's just, but it is there. And it feels good to notice the subtle aromas, the subtle sounds, the subtle experiences. I believe that anytime we do that, we kind of prime ourselves to experience more of the subtle things in the rest of our lives. The things that aren't necessarily screaming for our attention, but if we decide to give our attention, we can see something new. Okay, so here we are. This is our vegetables. And that's actually it for over here. We're going to head over to the pot. And I'm actually going to turn on a light over here so we can see okay. I'm going to turn on the heat. And we're going to start with some butter in the pan, about a tablespoon. Look at those crumbs on that butter. Almost like I was having toast or something. tablespoon of butter. Could also do olive oil, be just fine for this heat. I'm gonna let it melt, and then we're gonna add all these veggies in together. And I'm gonna grab my trusty spatula. Okay, so our butter is melting. I don't know if you have this, but a lot of people I talk to have very specific feelings about risotto. Like it's, first of all, like it's sort of something fancy. It's a little difficult to make, or it takes so long. Somehow it's like this really special thing that needs to be done a hyper specific way. And it always cracks me up because it's really like rice, cooking rice with stuff in it. And I think we don't necessarily have that much feeling about other rice dishes, but for some reason risotto, it's like, oh my gosh, it has to be done a specific way. And there is a technique to it, but it's a very simple technique. Oh my gosh, we're on the edge of brown butter smell happening here. Add in our veggies. Adding to the sizzle. So, well, just a second to appreciate this beautiful sizzle and the colors happening here. And the warmth. Okay. And now I'm going to put this lid on to kind of dampen the sound. But so while I want to encourage you not to be intimidated by risotto, because it's I'm going to show you how simple it is to make. And once you've done it a couple times, hopefully you'll kind of realize and see, the places you could change something, or where if you don't have something, you can make changes. But at the same time, that sense of this being like a special fancy thing that kind of needs to be babied, that you need to like spend time with, love it, listen to the sounds, stir it very gently, watch it very carefully. There's something actually really fun about making risotto because of that sort of sense of it. It's like this little pet that you have to keep very carefully, or it's just there's something very engaging about the process. So while I want you not to be too worried about how everything turns out, I think allowing it to be this sort of special experience, like something where maybe it's like you have a fantasy about put on beautiful music and I like chop my vegetables and I'm making risotto and this is like my lifestyle is so amazing. Get into it if that's your thing. But there's also just so much downtime as we just allow things to cook. We're going to let the vegetables cook for, I believe I suggest about 10 minutes. I think we'll probably do a little less than that because it should be just fine, but maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes here. Just letting them wilt. They're going to be so much smaller when we take this lid off. It's going to be incredible. So first we cook the vegetables a little bit, then we add in the rice and we mix the rice with everything and we allow the butter and all of that's infused with all of the vegetable aroma. Oh, you know what I need to do right now is actually add salt. Probably about a half a teaspoon. And I really like to add it at this level because it will, the moisture will come out of the vegetables more, which is good. And then it'll intensify the flavor and all of that will get into the butter. And then all of that flavor will get into the rice. And then we're going to be adding broth as we go. which will be adding more and more flavor. Now, fun story about the broth for today. So again, yeah, things can be different. Things can change. I don't have any broth. I don't have any homemade. I don't have any bouillon cube, anything like that in my house today. I was shocked to discover, moved recently and just hadn't bought any. I almost always have some. So I very quickly ran out when I realized and went to the local store that did not have any that I could find, but I was able to find the seasoning packets for Spanish rice. So I've made this incredible electric red broth here for today. And honestly, it tastes great. It's got dehydrated tomato and cilantro. It'll be wonderful, but it looks wild. And it's going to taste a little different today, but I think it'll be really good. But yeah, again, so you need broth for this, but the idea is just to be adding some flavor that's going to get stronger and cook down and develop and be soaked into everything. It can be anything. I also don't have wine. I'm not drinking at the moment. So you also would start with wine. That's very, very traditional. I can again imagine someone going you're not even making risotto. You're not using wine. You're not using powdered broth. It's well, we're using the short grain Italian rice. We're doing the process. I'm comfortable calling this risotto. It's gotten much smaller. The leeks especially have really shrunk down. I'm going to get a couple more minutes here before we add our rice. And so I was talking about the rice before. You do want to use arborio or carnaroli rice. This is this Italian short grain rice. That's very different from our medium. You can get short grain Japanese rice for sushi, which looks quite similar. I've never tried making risotto with sushi rice. I wonder how it would go. Probably be fine, but that's the look. And it's much, much starchier than regular rice. And we don't wash it beforehand because we don't want to get rid of that. So we want the starch that's more naturally in the rice, and we want every last bit of it. When we make, say, fluffy basmati rice, we wash it a lot, and we want to get the excess starch off of it so that when it cooks up, it fluffs up, and every little individual bit of rice will sort of be separate from each other, and they fall away, and it's very pleasing. But with this, we want them to stick together. We want to actually really develop that, the glutinous, not glutinous, but that starchy quality in between the rice, and it holds it all together. And then everything becomes this slushy, sort of slightly soupy mass. And that's really what we want in this situation. Okay. So here we go. We're going to add our rice. And I do like to generally measure. You don't have to measure, but I'm not the best at eyeballing in such a big thing. So 1 cup of rice. And then I'm going to mix it. Watching it go from this gosh, how do I express this? It's the oil completely changes the way it looks. It goes from this sort of dusty, starchy rice to something that's shiny with all of this flavor. Beautiful. And now we would add, you know what, I'm going to add a little bit of rice vinegar just to sort of mimic a little bit of that wine quality. This is an experiment. It might be weird. but we want a little bit of acid. And now I'm going to add, we'll start with this rice, and I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit to sort of a medium. And there's this big sound that's still at quite high heat. And we're also deglazing the pan each time we do this, as it's getting all the sticky bits off the bottom. And we just gently stir. And there's absolutely, you know, there's this belief that risotto, you have to keep stirring it all the time. And you can totally do that. There's something very fun and relaxing about doing that, actually. Just thinking, I have to babysit this. This is my only job. Just watching it, appreciating it. Seeing the way as you pull the rice and the vegetables away from the bottom, it slowly seeps in. The broth moves in. It's like all these different textures mixing around. As it begins to thicken, you can actually see the broth soaking into the rice as you go. You can see them getting plumper. It's amazing. And if you're right here, you can also begin to notice when you need to add more and it begins to dry. So as you can see, that first round is more or less soaked in. I might turn this down just a hair more. We want to give it enough. We need 20 minutes, like it takes rice 20 minutes to cook, right? So we're going to have to do this for 20 minutes. We're using so much more broth than you would if you were just cooking rice. It's because we're losing so much of it to the steam, and also we were trying to like really infuse this broth into the rice and into the vegetables as it cooks. But basically now we're ready for some more. It's ready to take on some more liquid. And some people also, there's a technique where you do just put it all in and you walk away and you leave it open and you don't worry about it. And that, I believe, works very well also. But like I said, there's something kind of fun about doing it this way. And I can show you now one round maybe where we don't mess around with it too much and see that it's just fine to do it that way too. Something so soothing about the bubbling. Of course, there's a real meditative quality to this. It is so funny how it's like a meditative quality versus watching a watch pot never boils, kind of mentality, like, oh, this is so boring, hurry up. But then if you accept, it's like, why do we feel that something is boring and we want it to hurry? I mean, maybe because we're hungry. But I'd really sort of challenge you, if you think that there's nothing to love, nothing to appreciate about watching bubbling, the soothing sound, the smell, the look of it, the way that it changes, all of that. Just look again. So I do think there's something universal and human that is occurring, that is pleasurable to our senses. That we can witness with this little pot. And I can just feel it, the soothing in my body. There's something, I guess the other thing that's soothing, I guess, that comes through as I sit here or stand here, is just something is happening without me having to do anything. I mean, obviously I did some things to get this going, but now it's just happening. I can trust that process to unfold. I don't know why that feels very profound to me right at this moment. I needed to hear that. Things are unfolding exactly as they are supposed to. And it's okay to just rest. I'm going to check and see. It's sticking. And so there's some parts of it that are beginning to stick to the bottom, which is great. They're creating flavor. I can move them around, and it's about time to add some more broth. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. And I'm really making this decision sort of based on how much it's bubbling, how evenly. I don't want it to be bubbling so intensely that it's like, oh my gosh, it's all steaming off so quickly. But I also want it to still be consistent enough that everything will cook through. We want the squash to cook through by the time that the rice is done, which I'm sure will happen. And the bubbles are coming up to the surface. What do you think with bubbles? Sometimes it's like there's this feeling that it sounds angry. It's like, is it angry or is it just very determined at its job? It's just trying to come through. Steam for us. Oh, it's also a very special day because it's the winter solstice today. So today is the darkest day, the longest night. You know that darkest before dawn kind of, that phrase comes from. I always think about that. It's like this turning point. Even though we know, of course, there's many more months left of winter, it's like knowing that it is getting better. It's like having faith. like with this. Even if something feels not so great, like the darkness, I have a very hard time with it. It's as it should be. It's just part of life. And it will change. And that's the thing about everything, right? Like the hard things that we maybe don't like or we don't welcome so easily into our lives, they change. And then the things that we like in our lives that we sort of want to keep, those also change. And this is changing before my eyes. I'm going to add some more salt at this point. Not too much more because I do think that there's quite a lot of salt in the seasoning in that broth. I'm going to grab a spoon though and just taste some of this to see where we're at. It's really, really hot, so I'm being super careful. Ooh, something like that. I like it. It's different, but I like it. Cool. That's fun. The tomatoey quality. Spanish rice, leek and squash risotto with goat cheese and honey if you want. You like, oh yeah, I really like it. Okay, don't eat too much. Let's see how the squash are coming along. The squash is great. The squash is so sweet. And then it's taking in this lovely tomatoey broth as well. Wonderful. Yeah, this is a really sweet dish, which again just feels, I don't know, emotionally appropriate for the solstice. Even if this is not perfectly in season, leeks are sort of more of a October, November thing. Same with squash. We think of them there, but less the depths of winter. But something so appropriate about a really sweet, hearty, yet, really full of very healthy, great for us, vitamin rich foods here. It's so warming, so satisfying, and so truly so sweet at every level. Onions are sweetening, squash is sweetening. Everything is taking on this this flavor, and then we're going to add a little bit of honey at the end. And truly, you can skip that if that doesn't appeal to you, but I think it's lovely. And again, yeah, there's a sweetness I think that we need to soothe ourselves through the darkness and the sort of hard times of winter. I think it's important. Sweetness, obviously, in terms of literal flavor, but also in terms of just the way that we are with ourselves and with those around us. Be loving and sweet when there's not maybe as much sort of obvious sort of pleasure and the brightness isn't there, Ooh. I'm gonna add a little more now. I'm telling you, it's my constant learning that when a sort of mistake happens, it's almost always a good thing. Like, I wouldn't have tried this if I wasn't sort of out of broth at the last minute, but I'm so glad I did. This is really tasty. This is a fun new discovery. I'm glad it happened. Life is made up of just experiences. Experiences after experiences after experiences, and I don't know. I've been thinking so much more lately about how we get to have experiences every single day, and we can notice the more, again, like more and more subtle. It's like, wow, I'm having new, exciting, fascinating, engaging experiences all the time if I allow myself to just be engaged in the small things. You know, it doesn't have to be an experience of like, I'm going to a new country, I'm meeting a new person, I'm going to this giant party, or I'm going to see my favorite musician. Like, all of those, of course, amazing experiences. But when I talk about sort of experiences that we can really have in our everyday life, it's more like this, like accidentally, like welcoming new experiences and allowing yourself to be delighted by it. Not, I think that's the other thing, like about being a grown-up sometimes, is also like, I can just be delighted by this. And maybe some younger part of me is going like, that's such a embarrassing thing to be delighted by. Like, that's seriously, that makes you happy? That's so uncool. But I want the joy. I want the good feeling. I don't want to pretend that I'm too cool to be like excited about risotto. I'm excited about making risotto. It feels good, and I get to have this. And I may not get to have this in other parts of my day, because other parts of my day may be filled with emergencies, stress, the sort of daily activities that we must engage in, which can be a joy or difficulty depending on how you look at it, or just how life plays out. But right now, all is well. And I'm really grateful for that. A sort of technical thing I think I should say is, we give these amounts of broth to use for this, about 4 cups, but you don't have to use it all. And it might go like, well, how do I know how much I should use? And it's really a matter of this sort of, we're doing this sort of equilibrium that you've seen me do, of like how much heat I'm using. It's really, we want the rice to be cooked, we want the vegetables to be soft enough that you can eat them all together enjoyably. And you want it to be just a little soupy. And I'll show you once we get to the end, sort of what you're looking for, what you're going for. And that will just tell you how much to use. So I may not even, I'm looking at this and this rice is looking like it's cooked really quickly. It might be time, like we might not need any more, but we might need a little more. We'll see. Rice isn't quite cooked yet. It needs a few more minutes. And worst case scenario, you overcook the rice a tiny bit. It's not a big deal really in this, because like, yeah, if you were serving it at a restaurant, someone would criticize it, I'm sure, but who cares? We're not at a restaurant. We're in our home. And if it's a little overcooked in risotto, I don't think it's a very big deal, because we are allowing for the starchiness and we're wanting it this sort of squishy, soft, falling aparty kind of experience is okay. So if we need to like overcook it a little bit, that's no big deal. And we're still going to have enough texture.
playing here. I'm like making patterns. Right, we are going to use a little bit more. I'm just going to use the rest. I think that will be enough. And then I have some honey, but it's not liquid, so I'm just going to put it in the microwave quickly. Just for a very short time until it becomes liquid, which takes like no time. It's good now. Nope.
I was wrong.
Okay. So now it is liquidy. And when I serve this, I'm going to just drizzle this over top. And I'm going to grab my goat cheese, my little thing of chev. And this is also something you can, these are like the flourishes at the end. You can also go traditional and add a bunch of Parm or Romano cheese to the end. That will Italianify this Italian dish. But this is different. This is like my recipe from my book, now with Spanish rice seasoning. So we're just doing what we want here. Going with this lovely, sharp. And actually, I think this is nice, especially because we don't have the wine. To have something that is a little sharp. And creamy. This is looking so good. So we're almost there, like 1 to 2 minutes out, but this is sort of the level of soupiness we want. And after I take it off the heat, it will kind of stiffen up a little bit as we serve it. So having it be just a little soupier like this is good. And then one more time, I'm going to taste the rice just to make sure we're all set. We are good. We are a go for risotto. Okay. So we're done. I'm going to kill the heat. And I guess I'll bring it over to the counter so we can all look at it and be happy. So pretty. So cute. Ugh. We're gonna, for beauty's sake, put the I'm drooling goat cheese everywhere. Okay. I'm gonna just crumble the goat cheese in. You could do it in the bowl. That would be great too. Like just serve a little bit on top, or if maybe one person you're feeding doesn't want to have goat cheese, you could just put it in the bowl for whoever does. Oh, messy. I've gotten messy so many times today. Wonderful. Blurp, blurp. Ah. Yummy. Okay, and then I'm going to get this serving. Just going to give it a little stir to mix the goat cheese in just a bit, but I really like to have like little clumps. Oh, look at this color. It's wild. Orange. Beautiful. So that's what we're looking for in terms of consistency. Actually, this is a little soupier than I usually go for, but truly it will set up. And we've got the goat cheeses, making it that much more thinned out. This looks really lovely. And just a little drizzle of, I'm almost going to sneeze. We'll see if this happens. Okay. A little drizzle of honey. Amazing. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm going to put my spoon over here. Oh. Yeah. This is actually so perfect for a solstice experience, in my opinion. It has everything you need. And the steam just going straight into my face, into my nose. Mm-hmm. Really wonderful. Really special. Mm-hmm. Really special and rich and fun to make. I hope you'll give this one a try. If you're new to risotto, if risotto is like, duh, I've done this a million times, give this unusual one a try. Thank you so much for joining me. Please let me know if you have any requests, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.